And I think when we don't do things that we earn by our stripes, we get to this place and we don't know how to act. We don't know how to live. We don't know how to carry ourselves.
A couple hours before kickoff?
Here we go.
It's a couple hours.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, I think it might be the best day in Midwest history. We were talking about this. Notre Dame and Ohio State playing each other
I'm pumped.
in the national championship game, which is sweet.
I'm finishing. Sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
you should finish it. Donald Trump inaugurated. That's pretty big.
47th and
45th? Yeah, that's
president.
wild. Isn't there only one other? Was it Grover Cleveland or something like that?
Never surrender.
I actually don't. That's actually,
Make it
that
great.
hat's legit.
It's
I think the normal MAGA hat's like a lot for me. I think it's just the red is real
subtleness is
bold.
real
The
nice.
subtleness
Yeah,
is
I
nice.
like it.
Yeah.
Fits your complexion, no?
I don't know what that means on this MLK Day, but
Good, Noah. Yeah. Well, that's what, Jersey. New? Supporting it today.
$20.
Yeah, $20.
$20.
Come on.
Tell him who it is.
That's
Tell him
Ted
who
Ginn
it is.
Jr.
Yeah.
Come on.
Ted Ginn
Talking
Jr.
about.
And I guess CJ Stroud, right?
Yeah,
Different
yeah.
jerseys.
You can
It's
fit,
like-
you can fit a
yeah,
variety.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did that with this guy. This guy's like the generic. He was originally Braxton Miller, went to Raekwon
McMillan.
Yeah. I don't even know. Who's 5 right now? Oh, this is not good.
No, I don't think anyone.
I wanted 0.
No,
There's
no
a
one-
6-0 one. I don't know who that is, but
Zero's Cody Simon.
Yeah,
that's
Cody
the block
Simon.
O
That's
though.
the-
That's
yeah.
the defensive. The
Dude.
defensive leader wears that every year.
Yeah, that's legit.
There's a sweet jersey. I was out on Marketplace. That's where I bought this. Shout out Westerville.
Yeah,
Bought it
shout out
20 bucks.
Westerville.
Yeah.
But there's one over in Dublin. You know Dublin.
I do know
Dublin's.
Dublin.
That
Nice
was
stuff.
$90.
Was it like mint? Was
It
it
was
like
nice.
Yeah.
Legit.
And it was like it had the. I mean, it was actually pretty affordable. It was like it had like the cuffed sleeves.
Yeah.
Like it was like a game day ready jersey. You could totally tell it was a fake, but it was nice.
Yeah, recording before the game's a big deal because
Here-
I get to say that
Yeah. Keep going.
like we could make selections. We could say who we think's going to win,
gonna win?
And people are going to listen to this afterwards, and
sure.
they're going to listen back. And
Yeah.
be like,
So it's gonna be
this guy.
the Bucks over the top of the Irish.
okay.
Gonna be 21-3.
Oh,
getting
I
a
would be-
touchdown.
defensive showcase.
Oh, I would be so happy if they scored 3 points.
Okay.
That'd be amazing.
21-3. I like that take. You and I have a similar one. We've already talked
we
about
have
it.
the same one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
30-17 Ohio State.
I like it.
Why you give reason for why you think that's the
Well, so Joel Klatt, shout out to Joel Klatt.
Yeah, Joel, if
he's
you ever
goated.
wanna come on the pod, dude.
He's the man. He said 35-17. He said that Notre Dame won't score past 17. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
I think I do too.
But
yeah.
I think Ohio State, honestly, it's a prediction from trauma, to be honest with you. Ohio State should win this game like 56-17, but I just know sometimes we don't like to show up, and I've been disappointed too many times in my life. Just a shout out back to 2006, 2007, or was it 2007, 2008, where we made it both years in a row and got whacked by Florida and then LSU.
yeah,
Florida than
that's
LSU.
yeah, that's
Yeah, so I just
still in the back of your mind.
But we're so, I told everyone this, and I don't care who disagrees. So we've been playing at like 95% the last 3 games against Tennessee, Oregon, and Texas. If we show up and play 70% tonight, we still beat Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're not as
Notre
good
Dame
of a
has
team.
exactly one path to victory.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they'd have to muddy it up. It's like when was it the Giant? No, it wasn't the Giants. It was the original. No, it was the OG Patriots that beat the greatest show on turf with Kurt Warner.
The Rams.
Like the
Yeah.
way they won
Yeah.
that game is exactly how Notre Dame would have
Yes.
to win this one, and I just don't
Yeah.
think it'll happen. My prediction's 30-17. 30's 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals. I think what's going to happen is up front. Man, I hope this is right. In the first quarter, I think that Ohio State's going to really set a tone. So I don't know if they're going to score 14 or 17 in the first quarter, but the first part of the game, I think they're going to go up 17-3, something in that realm. And then I think the middle part of the game, Notre Dame will actually control with a little bit of a pushback, but then Ohio State will end the third
Finish.
quarter and dominate the fourth quarter. And I think that'll bring 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals. We'll see. 30-17, something like that.
I like it.
What I've loved, man, and I don't know if those listening don't follow Ohio State, they have a captain by the name of Jack Sawyer. He plays defensive end across from JT Tuimoloau, and they're both studs. But Sawyer, they lose to Michigan, which is just
Crushing.
unforgivable in most Ohio State fans'
Yeah.
minds, especially this year after losing so many in a row. And Jack the next day is players only meeting, everybody come. It's rumored, again, Jack, if you'd want to come on the pod, that'd be sweet too. It's rumored that he lays out 2 things. He says, we're going to win the national championship, and we're going to save Coach Day's job. And I'm just like, give me that every day of the week.
It's a great leader.
He's
Every day
a
of the
Columbus guy.
He is,
Because
you're
the
right.
team, now that we're recruiting so heavily across the country,
Yep.
we don't get like those Columbus guys. So he grew up 10 minutes from where I grew up, and I just love the fact that he's a Columbus guy who was pissed off. We can get into the flag.
Pick North,
the
right?
Flag, yeah,
Yeah,
Pick
that's-
North.
yeah.
We can get into the full, like when he tore the flag, because I'm in major support of that, but a lot of people are not.
I'm a
I
big fan.
got in a fight with my family about it. A day later, had to walk out and go on
to
a drive.
process.
Yeah,
Had
had
to
to go on a
process.
drive.
Shout out
anyways,
to last podcast.
yes. So I am a big fan of him because he's one of the few, which is another debate for another day. I think Ohio State will have a harder time beating Michigan as years go on because we don't have those guys that like, to them, they have to learn that this is something that's like live or die.
Yeah.
But if you're from Columbus or from Ohio, you're like, this is everything. This is more important than anything. Like even when we win tonight, I'll be like, I'm pretty happy, but I'll be nowhere as happy as much. I will be nowhere as close to as happy as I was in 2014 when we beat Michigan.
Yeah.
When
Railroaded Wisconsin.
yes, when we obliterated them.
And then
with the-
Alabama,
yeah.
Oregon, right?
Yeah, so I will be way more. I was way happier then than I will be for this one because it's like, okay, we won, and this was sweet, and it was sweet seeing them play really well, but we still lost to Michigan, and so I think it's going to be harder and harder as years go on for the people having to come in and learn what it means to hate Michigan versus like grow up every day of their life. Like my brother was locked out of he was 6 years old. You can talk about whether this is healthy or not. But when he was 6 years old, he jokingly said in his house, I love Michigan. His uncle locked him out. He's a stepbrother, so he has a different uncle. His uncle locked him out of the house until he said, I love Ohio State and I hate Michigan.
Yeah.
It was like 2 hours outside in November. It was like cold.
After random victories at Ohio Stadium, Sam, I'm going to come to you because I want to hear about your adoption of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yes.
I recall, like in college, you're leaving Ohio Stadium. We just beat Minnesota by 35 points. You just beat Illinois by 42 points. And as you're walking out, the chant is, we don't give a damn for the whole state of Michigan, the whole
Great song.
state of Michigan. It's like every game. And like you'd be at a hockey game and it'd be like 2 minutes remaining and Michigan still sucks.
Yes.
It's just like it's in the blood. What brought you into fandom?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Well, it's culture. It's power of culture, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I was on a
Yeah.
weekend getaway with some couples and down in Kentucky with Brad, a few friends.
Is that where you got that
and
hat?
That's where I got the hat.
It's-
You know, give me a.
It's
give
a
me
nice hat.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
And we were sitting there watching Oregon versus Ohio State, and I was like, I hate Ohio State. I did. I'm serious. I freaking want to watch this game. Like, sat down and watched. I'm like, this is actually pretty enticing. It was a good game. And afterwards, I'm like, I think I'm kind of invested in this. And I realized, wow, all of my friends are Ohio State fans, and I'm just
Yeah.
not. And why don't I just get on board?
can
And
be
so
fun.
started watching, and then went over to another friend's house and watched the Michigan game, which so I'm actually through and through. I'm not a bandwagoner. The two
yeah.
games I watched before the playoff run,
this is
they
right.
lost. They
That's
lost.
true,
that's true,
They
yeah.
lost to Michigan.
I think
The
you
two-
texted
That's
me and said,
crazy.
should I stop watching the game?
And so, yeah, I mean, once we got into the playoffs, I was kind of invested, and I think I'm here
Yeah.
to stay. But
Yeah.
I don't think I'm quite yet at the point you guys are. Of
That's
the
okay.
whole,
That makes sense.
You know,
Well, we'd be
hate
remiss to
people
not
and-
mention that because your heart is very involved with a different football team who's doing, like, I would say pretty good in this
Yeah,
season.
they're pretty good. You know,
Yeah.
by the time this podcast airs, it will be known that the Chiefs will be facing the Commanders in the Super Bowl.
I hope you're right. No, I
it's-
want that.
it's
I
done.
want
You want
that.
that?
I
Dude,
want the
okay.
Commanders.
Philly is overrated.
Yeah,
Overrated.
I agree.
Okay?
I like
Jaden
these takes.
McDaniel or Jaden McDaniel.
Jaden.
Jaden.
Yeah, Jaden.
Jaden
Jaden
McDaniels.
McDaniel.
Jaden Daniels is going to be the first rookie to lead his team to the Super Bowl.
He is
and
playing
get waxed by the
insane.
Chiefs, but
He is playing insane.
He is.
I like that.
no,
I
Philadelphia's
want it.
overrated.
And look, I will say this: you have had an NFL team your whole life.
Yeah.
I've never really had an NFL team. I was a Chargers fan growing up because I loved Antonio Gates. Long story there, but I am, because my fiance is from Cleveland. And my brother is a big Browns fan. I've committed to being a Browns fan. But I will say, my heart has been like it's been changing a little bit, and I really love dominance, and I really love dominance by a single player, like an MJ figure, and I think Pat Mahomes is the closest thing to it. So my heart is changing. When you put your heart on the table and became an Ohio State fan,
I'm just saying. I mean, I can get you a jersey pretty easily.
Yeah. So I'm just saying I'm not fully committed yet, but I'm dang sure close. They are the team I want to win the playoffs for sure, but I might become a Chiefs fan.
I think it's just the coolest thing in the world. I mean, really, to see a three-peat
would be insane.
Oh, it's baller.
It'd be like everyone throws around the word like, oh, scripted. I'm like, if it's not, it's freaking scripted in their head because they believe.
Yeah, they do. There is
and it's not
something
scripted.
No,
for all those
for
idiots out there.
No, now, I do think this is classic Brad, the guy of nuance. I do think that teams that are more dominant get the benefit of many calls. I think it happens across the board. I think it happens in college basketball. I think it happens in college football. I think it happens in NBA. I think it happens in.
I think it's a part of earning your stripes too. I mean, like when Mahomes was young, like first year in the league, like he got knocked down all the freaking time.
Yeah, sure, right.
No calls.
Yeah, in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, he got obliterated.
Freaking like face smash. Like nothing.
Yep.
And so I mean, people look at Mahomes now and they're like calling these roughing the passer penalties on him. I'm like. Yeah, I mean, they did the same thing to Brady.
Yep.
They did the same thing to Manning. I mean, this is just a part.
We do. We gotta. Maybe that's a story for a different podcast. We gotta approach like people don't like success.
Yeah, they don't like heroes.
Right? Well, but on the other side, they don't like heroes. Yeah, we did talk about that. I'm pretty excited for today though, because on the other side of success,
we could talk about this forever. So
failure.
You gotta move
on the other side of success is failure, and we've been really in the rediscover camp recently. So we're going to be in the redeem camp a little bit today on redeeming failure. So failure being something that in the past was looked at in a particular way with a particular lens, failure that's looked at differently today, and failure that we want to return to a more holistic way of viewing and a more masculine way of approaching. And Sam, you're going to take lead on it. What you got prepped?
Yeah, let's take it away. So
redeeming failure.
Redeeming failure. Yep. So in preparing this, I was reflecting on just kind of the different points in life where I think we get really, passionate about different topics or things going on in life. Like I think when I was in college, and I think I know this just because Brad and I were in college around the same time, both had pretty amazing experiences with an organization by the name of St. Paul's Outreach. Shout out SPO. Those years, I think for us, were ones of formation through excellence and virtue, wanting to pursue being people who were consistent and virtuous and doing excellent things. Like I remember being like passionate about making my bed every day, about doing the dishes before going to bed. I remember being consistent about like watching my tongue. Like I probably have more of a loose tongue now than I did then. Like there was this mentality, this tenacious pursuit of excellence in my life. And I think one of the cornerstone moments for me during that, we share this memory, but there was this talk that was passed along amongst the community that we were involved in by a guy named Andy Stanley. And Andy is a leadership expert and a pastor of a church in Georgia. And he had this talk all about virtue and all about excellence. And there's this one line that really stuck out to me that I was kind of reflecting on recently. And he said, it's always a mistake to decide what you're going to do before you first decide who you're going to be. It's always a mistake to decide what you're going to do before you first decide who you're going to be. And at the heart of that, what it is this reality that every single one of us has this part of us that is our character, right? Our integrity. It's what you do when no one's looking. It's who you are when everyone's looking. Like there's this consistency in your life. It's not about having high highs and low lows. It's about being consistent. And I think that one of the things that was so striking to me, because in the last couple of weeks and even just over the last couple months, like there's been different figures that there's different sports figures, like a whole string of Fox sports analysts were just accused of like having promiscuous sexual relations with another anchor because she wanted to advance in her career in the network. And it's like, why is that such a commonplace? Like it became a breaking news for just a day, but it's like, well, that's actually a lapse in character. And then you see people like pastors, even like Ravi Zacharias, Carl Lentz. Like there's these individuals who have these big, massive followings, and it's not limited to just like the religious sphere of people having these scandalous experiences or the public sphere. It's like this. There's something here of when our gifting or our talent becomes bigger than the character that holds it up. There's it's only a matter of time where it's a teetering tower, right? It's going to fall over. And I think that's the thing I want to examine today is why has it become such commonplace for us to see vice so prevalently in our lives? Why has it become such commonplace for us to be able to turn on the news and to see, oh, there's another person. Like, I don't think it blew anyone's mind to see, when Tiger Woods had an affair, or when Jordan left his wife, or when Trump was accused of these things with Stormy Daniels. Like, it's just like a part of life that I think people are like, oh, it's just another person who's fallen from the throne. And I think that's something I want to examine because it's not meant to be like that. Like, it's not our life as man. It's not. And I think that's an important thing to tackle here because, at least for me, sometimes the narrative that I can see through the world and sometimes for myself is like, I see all these people that I admire and it's like, man, is it just a matter of time for me? Or is it just a matter of time for other people that I admire and love? Where it's like, you can be excellent for so long, but then does anyone ever actually live completely virtuously their whole life? Like, that's the narrative I think that we need to fight. And that's what I want to introduce today, is being able to redeem character in an age where it's just kind of lawless.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think about this particular topic a lot, actually. Like, one of the early prayers that was going around the community that we're a part of now was just, Lord, never allow our anointing to outweigh our character. That we don't want to take on more than the foundation can hold. It's a bad idea to build a skyscraper on a faulty foundation. But I think in the realm of failure, so like just thinking about it exactly how you laid it out, Sam, like failure today is usually because of pride, whereas failure in times past was because of pursuit. So like failure now is like, because I'm an egotist and I never have enough and I'm always looking for what I can get, my failure comes from tipping over because I overloaded myself. Whereas like in the past, the failure came because I was pursuing something worthwhile and I was going to go after it. And even if I fell short, I was going to get up the next day and do it again. And I think because we've gotten into an era where everything's about me and not about we, or not about like impact, or not about an external facing thing, but all about internal facing things, what we found is that failure has shifted. Like that failure now looks a certain way. Failure usually leads now to scandal and the things that we talk about decently regularly when you see the news cycle. But failure in the past, like a failure that's oriented towards a pursuit, it doesn't end in scandal. It ends in like, well, if anything, encouragement. Like it ends in like how many stories do we like look at? How many like movies do we watch where the person doesn't get there the first try? They don't get there the second try. They fail again and again and again and again. And then they cross this threshold. I mean, if we're talking Jordan again, right? Like that's a huge part of his story that I think gets undersold. Is like this dude like was on JV as a junior in high school. Like he makes it into like the end of his junior year, getting some playing time. Like senior year, he's now on varsity. He goes to the University of North Carolina because he's so dominant his senior year of high school. Dean Smith underneath him keeps him like contained. Jordan's failing to like fit into this system, but then gets into the system and does it well and goes and fails time and time again with the Bulls until then he crosses the threshold and then he stays there for a long time. And so we're inspired by that. Why? Because that's failure the right way. Failure the wrong way, and again, we can learn from it, and you guys might have nuance to this too, but failure the wrong way is saying something like, hey, after all, I'm going to just get mine and go after things for me, and then you take on too much and you collapse. Like that's not how I think we should be looking at failure as men, especially, and rather looking at failure through the lens of like, man, what am I going after? And what is worth going after, knowing that I'll fail on the way? You know?
Well, Sam, you said this too. You said, why is it so accepted? Is that your question? Why is it so accepted?
I think there's the things like pondering, like, why is it so acceptable? So I think,
I think so there's a show. Say what you want about it, but I really like it. It's called The Crown. It's on Netflix. It's a really good show.
I'm surprised you like this, actually.
Yeah.
Right?
Did I watch it?
This is like a secret.
I love it.
I can't even.
And I want to tell you, like, my sister, like my mom, really liked it, and so I watched it with them. Now I just watched it alone.
Okay.
And I really liked it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring it up is this. So it's because I love history. I love history so much. But what you saw is, so if you watch from season 1, episode 1, up until the end, what you see is a diminished respect and honor for the crown, for England's not parliament, England's monarchy, right? So you at the beginning, it begins during World War II, essentially, right after World War II. And you see this immense respect in England for the crown, for the monarchy, and for the king and queen. And basically what you start to see over the span of years is to the point of, they cover until about 2005 or so, no one, like very few people respect the crown. Like no one really cares about the King of England or the Queen of England. No one respects them as a family. No one really cares. And if you watch the show, what the very reason this happens, you could say it's because of media. You could say it's because of all these things. It's because of scandal. Like it's because of moral failure on behalf of the people in the royal family. And what eventually happens though is basically there's scandal after scandal. There's tons of infidelity in the family. There's tons of, and then what happens is basically people realize there's nothing to look up to, so they just don't care about it anymore. And I think they even say it in the show a ton. So what ends up happening a ton in the show is whenever the queen wants to do something, there's always an advisor or somebody telling the queen, like, you are the moral standard that everyone looks up to. So even when she considers letting her sister get married to a divorced man, which was something very scandalous in the 60s and 70s, the queen says no, because she has to create this divine like she has to be almost a divine person to be looked at. And that's kind of what they talk about throughout the show. And I think, why do I bring that up? I think there's a reality that for so long in society, if you were at the top, it meant that you were the hero that we should all look to, and which means that we put something on you that wasn't actually something that wasn't actually realistic, right? So we would put something onto that hero, and then they would have to operate in a way that would make everyone think that they were what they said. But the problem is that person typically was not brought into that moment because they asked to be. They were typically brought up into that moment because they were working hard at something, and then it blew up. And so the reason I say that is, even like you have these certain individuals who have vices, right? And these vices are not a big deal when you're making $40,000 a year, right? Like if or whatever it is, or when you have this amount of friends, or when you have this amount of influence, your vices start out very small. But then as they get to as you make more money, as you have more opportunity, it just magnifies your vices. But you have to keep those secret because everyone wants to look at you in a certain way. And I think that's the place where people get to. So then they're spending half their time trying to keep up their image, while on the back end, their vices never left them. They still have the same needs, as we've heard a lot. Like they still have the same needs that they had. Now they're just amplified on a whole new level, and they're powerful enough oftentimes to believe they can do it and get away with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, and so I think
they can control the narrative,
and so I think at this point in society, like back to the crown idea, like these individuals still believe that they have to carry that, but we as people have way less of an expectation for them to do that because we've seen so much failure in the past. So
do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Like, do you think it's a good thing that we have this perspective now of like, everyone sucks? You know what I mean? Or do you think because I think it's almost like depressing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, we have no heroes to look up to. We have no one because I think to your point, and this is like it's difficult. Like, I mean, you look through any piece of history, like whether it's the Bible, like when we look in the Bible, there are really good men who are terrible fathers.
Yes.
Like, and the people that they raise up are horrible.
Yep.
Like, and then you think about like, Whitney and I just went and saw Gladiator 2 last month over Christmas. Amazing movie. Have you guys seen it?
I haven't seen
the best movie.
Is it sweet?
Did you not? Do people not like it?
One of our good friends hates it.
I haven't
Don't
seen
you
it.
tell me later.
I'll text.
Can we have a night where
I want to watch it?
No, dude, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm not good. I'm
a
not
huge
good.
fan.
I'm
Huge
like
fan.
if people watch something and invite me into it, I always do. I almost never watch something on my own. So that's what I need.
The Last Dance Testament. So we'll have to just
I'm losing credibility.
So the reason I bring up Gladiator 2, Gladiator 1 is because there's this weird perspective here of like, okay, so you got Marcus Aurelius, who is like this amazing man. And then you have his son Commodus, who's like a terrible man. And how can like this amazing virtuous man raise up a horribly unvirtuous, viceful child. But then you've got these leaders in Rome, right? Like Gracchus and Gaius, or whatever, the two brother emperors that are freakazoids.
The two feminine.
Psychos, yeah.
It's a great depiction of feminine leadership. Feminine leadership in men.
In men.
Yes.
Yeah,
And even in, like,
before we get canceled.
It is a wild dichotomy to today's world. Like I look at some of that stuff, I'm like, this is probably what most politicians do behind closed doors. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to get at is we no longer have, we don't oftentimes have people who get there by merit. They get there by like privilege, right? There's this book that I'm reading right now by
Fortune.
By Truett Cathy, so the founder of Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
He's talking about generosity, and it's kind of this. It's very similar to it's like those kind of allegory business books. Like who's the one Catholic guy at the table with Lencioni? Yeah, so he does a lot of those kind of allegorical works and stuff. Truett Cathy did this one, and the opening character of the whole thing is basically this trust fund child who bleeds his way through college on partying and all these things, and gets to this point of leadership within his father's company that he never earned. And I think when we don't do things that we earn by our stripes, we get to this place and we don't know how to act. We don't know how to live. We don't know how to carry ourselves. And I think what we find ourselves in is a lot of people who have neglected one of the most fundamental realities of human development, and that is just how to act good. Yeah. Like there is actually such, like I think we have, it's actually, we're opening up a whole can of worms. We have like parenting problems in the world, which lead to horrible children that just get everything they want. Like one of the hardest things to say to a child is no. And one of the hardest things to do as a parent is not negotiate with the terrorists. Like that's what it is. With like a 4-year-old, it's like, I'm just negotiating with a terrorist. If I give in to their wants and they're like their petty wants. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And they got you by the nutsack, and all they're trying to do is drag you around and say like, now I own you. And it's like, no. I'm the parent in the relationship here. Yep. And to raise people who are virtuous and aren't going to make crazy mistakes. So anyway, I think that was kind of long-winded there, but
no, I get it. I think it's right on par though, because I think the earn it message, like it comes from a place of like, because as you're earning it, what you're learning how to do is fail. Yeah. Like failure is a luxury when it teaches you a lesson. Like that's the truth. Like when you don't earn something, you're given something without the prospect of failure. And that is not good for us, particularly as men. Yeah. Like I'm going to fail as a husband all the time. But here's the thing, like I'm going to fail as a husband in my pursuit of being a really good one. Like that's how I'm going to fail. Yeah. Because then I can learn the lesson that teaches me how to be more that thing I'm after. I'm not going to fail as a husband in going out on my wife. I'm not going to fail as a husband in divorcing myself from my family because I'm going to choose my path of failure. And the one I want to choose is the one that goes deeper, not the one that goes wider. And I think that like that is why I'm given something instead of earning it just destroys us and neuters us as men. Because what it says is, don't even worry about it. You can live a life that's spotless. Not really, but you're just never going to be in the place where you have to face failure. And that's just never real. That can't happen. Like we can't get through life without failing. So you're going to either fail behind closed doors and leave a facade of success, or you're going to fail purposefully, forwardly, and after something. I really believe that. I know that's going back to my initial paradigm.
I don't think you're going back on anything. I mean, you are going back on something, but I think it's what I was thinking too, because it's this. I think I'm struggling with trying to understand, like, and maybe this is just my own process of wanting to get to like the root of the issue, but it's like, I like this is such a culture. This has got to be a cultural problem, right? Like when you think of like the culture as a whole, like we have become like accepting of vice to a degree, but then we have also become like, I don't know, like I don't want to say like unaccepting, but there's just this perspective that people, you can look at, like maybe it's my issue. Like I look at people and sometimes I just assume the best until they fail me wrong, right? So like I don't assume and distrust at most people in power. Like the whole P. Diddy stuff, I'm like, wait, what, P. Diddy? But all along I should have been like, frick yeah, like P. Diddy.
Yeah,
like
something's going on. Yeah.
And I think that do you think people are too trusting in our culture? Do you think people are like skeptical? And maybe this is like individual, but like the culture we've built Do you think it's one of?
Yeah,
Well,
you're
well,
right. That's
well,
a
well,
good question.
try this, because this helped me a lot when I've had the same question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be as non-specific as possible, but think about for a second the people that you as a young child idolized and what you think of them now. So
Yeah.
I think our society operates that way. So and Patrick Bet-David says this so much. It's one of my favorite things that he says, and he says it almost every
All the
episode
time. I
of
bet I
his
know,
show.
yeah.
But he says, what you do with your parents is you grow up first idolizing them. Then in your teenage years, maybe even to your college years, you start to demonize them. Then into your life, later on in life, what you start realizing is you start to humanize them. So you idolize, then you demonize, and then you humanize. And I think that's exactly what we do with people who have moral failure. I think we do. We idolize them. We think they're heroes. Like, and I said like 7 things earlier, and I was trying to pinpoint what I was trying to say, and I think it's this. Like, we want to have something to look to because we want to be great. And so we put all of our balls in that basket, but then we don't remember that person's human. And so then when that person fails, we're like, screw you, you're the worst thing ever.
Yeah, you were
you
faked
deserve
all the
to be
time.
punished. But then when we walk that out a little bit more, we say, oh, wait, they're human just like me too. And it was kind of my fault for idolizing them in the first place. It's not that it's bad to idolize people, but like I've been following deeply Carl Lentz, right? So we all know Hillsong pastor, New York City, immensely successful. And I would say he failed a billion times pursuing the right thing, which was to build this amazing church and save souls, right? And so he was pursuing something great, failed a billion times, earned his way to the top there, and then had serious moral failures. And again, I was somebody who like kind of idolized him. Like, this guy's so good at talking to people that don't know who Jesus Christ is and don't know anything about about Christianity. He's so good at this, and I would hope to be that gifted communication wise to that degree, right? And I would always send videos to Brad because I'm like, Brad is actually like Brad is so gifted at communicating in the same way that this guy is. And I had some idolization there because I'm like, he is just killing it and he's not failing in his personal life. Then comes out that he's having these affairs. And what did I do? I immediately demonized him. 2 years, and I was like, this guy, classic Protestant pastor, failure, like going off, sending videos to everybody, like this is classic, and looking into it, whatever. 2 years later, he comes out with a podcast called Lights On, and I've followed every single episode. It's been going on since in maybe May or April. Watched every single episode, an episode a week, and what I've been able to do in this process is deeply humanize him. Like he had some abuse in his childhood. He always was hungering for people to understand him because he felt so misunderstood. Stuff with his parents, stuff with his, so stuff with the men that led him early on. Like, and then I began to realize like, oh, I have some of that in my life, right? Like I haven't been abused, but I've been, like I've felt neglected before. I felt misunderstood, and that's led me to make bad decisions. And then if I were to become very, very famous, those bad decisions would probably only be amplified. So back to the point, it's the we as people, we idolize, we demonize, then we humanize. If that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think I also think there's there's a reality that nothing, very few things are true dichotomies. So like if you're listening, or even we can think to our own lives, when you do have those like moral failures, or where you go outside the line, so you fail in a way that's vanity driven or pride driven or whatever it is. I think it's important to note that the way that you fail properly on the other side of that is by the pursuit of rectifying it, right? Like it's because like wherever you're at, you can start from there and say, I'm going to rectify that. Like I'm actually going to rectify that aspect of my character, or I'm going to rectify that relationship. And that again puts us back on the track of what I think is real failure, because you're going to fail in rectifying all those things. Because like, what do you know, right? What do you know about that relationship? What do you know about that thing that you just fell out? Like you don't, and the things you don't know will cause you to trip up. But I do think, like you're saying, Noah, like if we can humanize ourselves and those who fail in this way, we can say, actually, yeah, I don't want to be the sort of person that fails from a vanity or pride position. But if I do, I'm just going to get back on to the pursuit of something worthwhile, which is the rectification and like wholeness of me, being a father, like a son, like all the things you were talking about, Sam, like these huge responsibilities that I want to take seriously.
Yeah. Man, it's got this question stirring to me, man. It's like, how do you recover from this, though? You know what I mean? So, like, because what I heard you say about Carl, I think is a really important point to know that I don't want to lose, and that is this: that in life, it's not always like a failure, right? There's like, I think we're drawing the points to these failures of like character, and because there are things that happen to us, and there are things that we choose, right? There are things those are things that can go wrong in our life. Like someone like Carl is, if he's pointing out all these things in his life, right? If he's like there's some sort of abuse or the way that he was treated or people that were let into his home or however he was formed as a child, ultimately those have effects on your character. They do. They shape and mold the way who you are. But then it's not just like these experiences that mold us and shape us, but they also create the framework we look from. They create core beliefs about how we view the world.
Yes.
And then we begin to operate from that place. So not like this is just that whole saying of like wounded people wound people. This idea of like when we are hurt, we're looking for a place to satisfy the hurt. We're looking for a place to satisfy the thirst. And that's where I guess I'm struggling because I think it's very simple in the sense of like as a father, I can look to my own life, and as a husband, I can look to my own life and be like, I cannot erase nor change 29, 30 years of my life. I can't. Yeah. Nor should I, because a lot of that, through the right lens of failure, if I can fail fast and fail forward, I can learn from it. I can move forward, and I can become the victor in my own story. I can be the hero in my own story. But I can look to my children's life, and I can be like, I am actually like this. It was it shocked me, like shell shock this Christmas, of like I am creating the core memories of my children right now. The things that I went through as a 4-year-old, like there were some things that happened to me as a 4-year-old that I'm like, man, no one should ever have to go through that. Yeah. I'm like, my son is the same age right now that like some of those things happen to me in. And it's like, he doesn't have to live that same way. But I like, if I don't heal from some of that stuff, I'm not going to inflict that on him, but I'm going to be living from that place. Yep. And so I guess my question is, it can be easy to just to say you either forget it and move on, or you can't do anything about it now. So just try to like raise good children. But it's like ultimately we have to heal from this stuff. And I'm kind of wrestling with like, I think it's obvious in the world and in our own lives of like, we all have lapses in character and struggles in integrity, but like, what do we do with it now? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The three words that have come to mind are mentorship, community, and leadership. So mentorship, you have to have somebody who's better than you at what you're trying to do and better than you in the areas that you're failing the most. So one of my favorite, what I boiled down when I reached out to my coach, the guy that I just asked to kind of lead me and mentor me, is the first thing I led with was, I'm wanting to add things to my life, and I'm realizing I'm really bad at time management. You are excellent at time management. Can you help lead me in that? But that mentor is never going to be close enough to me. They're going to be able to give me good principles to help walk out. But that mentor is never going to be close enough to me to be able to see all of my flaws and say like, hey, that sucks right there. That sucks, and you need to get better there. So that's where you need community, right? People that see you day in and day out fail and make mistakes and do terrible and say horrible things, all of that. You need those people. And you need to, at the same time, be fully arms open to them as well to show them, right? To show them all your stuff, to show them, to speak with them, to be honest with them about what's going on in your life. Then your leadership also has to show that. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've been working on is like I'm blessed to be able to do a lot of public speaking in front of people, and I've spoken to thousands upon tens of thousands of people at this point over 10 years. And up until 2 years ago, I was always speaking as, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to be better in this area. You need to stop sucking. You need to step up here. You need to run harder. You need to do this faster. And I changed my language as a leader to, this is where we want to be. And let me be honest with you about the fact that I'm not there yet. And I think that's what I see changing in the world a lot right now, is this like, the ideal is still really good. The ideal you should strive after. But you need to be really honest up front of where you're not doing that, right?
Well, because you're owning your failure.
Exactly. Like you need to be really honest with the people. Like I was delivering this message in May and I was delivering this message and I walked into this message being like, what I have to go and talk about today, I don't feel like I'm living out very well right now. And so what did I do for the first time in my life? I started that message out by saying, look, I got to be honest with you guys. Like, this isn't going to win you over more. I'm not winning by saying this, but I'm not doing this thing that I'm asking you guys to do to the greatest degree that I would like to be doing it. But this is what I did. I said, and here's why. And what was amazing to me is more people than ever before walked up to me after that message and said, oh my gosh, Noah, like you just pinpointed for me the reason I'm not going where I need to go. You just pinpointed for me the reason in which I've been struggling this for so long. And it was all through you admitting that you were sucking in this area. And so I found that in my leadership, I need to bring them into, yes, this is the ideal, but this is where my thought process is in it right now. And this is where I'm at in it. And this is my journey in it. Rather than saying, this is the ideal, and here's a story of how I did this once, and you should all do it too. And so I think it's this threefold reality of mentorship, helping somebody show you the ideal, and help you give principles to get closer to that ideal. Community where you're completely naked in front of them, and they're naked in front of you, and you're sharing life with them, and they're seeing all of your crap, and you're sharing with them all of your crap. And then as a leader, pointing to the ideal and saying, hey, let's all get there together. We're all going this way. And here's how I'm not, and here's how I am. Yeah. That's long-winded, but
no. I like the progression a lot. I think I think the wrestle for me is it's coming down to like, how do you hold in your hand at the same time who you are and who you could be? So like that is a critical question for us as men to answer. Like, how can I respect, honor, and love the man that I am today with all of his flaws and all of the shortcomings, and the man that I can become, the man that's inside of me, the man that I'm aiming at being. And what this does is it balances us out, and it helps us take maximum responsibility with maximum mercy. So like, yes, I'll own every single, I'm sorry, Noah, I did say that to you. And I said it in a way that wanted to showcase this part of me, that wanted to dominate in this way. And I'm sorry for that. Yeah, Sam, I did talk over you there, and I shouldn't have. Like whatever that is, like maximum responsibility, but then a maximum mercy of like, hey, I'm a work in progress. Like I'm going to fail. Like I'm not expecting myself to be perfect. I'm expecting myself to aim at the right thing and pursue perfection. Like I want to pursue it because I know it's not the thing that's like most graspable, but it's the thing that's going to allow me to say, okay, I'm going to be accountable for every misstep. Yeah. And because I know I'm going somewhere, I'm going to be really merciful because I'm not starting back from route zero. I'm moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
No,
some combination
you are.
of those
No,
two.
you're dead on. Yeah, you're dead on, man. I think within that, I'm like trying to name, because I think something when we hear this and we hear like we all have, struggles with character or integrity. It's like we can what we did at the beginning is we made these big massive examples, right? Like O.J. Simpson killing his girlfriend, like Jordan cheating on his wife, like all these massive crazy examples. Rashi Rice driving his car, and like there's like these crazy lapses in character. But then it's like, and I don't want to assume here, and I also don't want to sound like an idiot. So please stop me if I'm sounding like an idiot. I feel like that the vast majority of people are not at that place, but I also don't want to write it off because it's like people don't also get there just by like the snap of a finger, right? It's like little choices that build over time. But what I'm trying to say is like there's probably a very small circle of things. Like if you are in this place, you need to seek help, right? Like I'm not.
That's like, good to say.
I'm saying like if you are actively cheating on a girlfriend or spouse, like you need to seek help. Like if you are actively entertaining thoughts of doing those things, you need to seek help. If you are actively stealing, like if you're doing those large things, you need to seek help. Like you probably should take a time out from life and heal, right? Yes. Because I do think that's necessary to hear. But then there's like this thing that you're bringing up, Brad, of like who I am and who I could be. There's a gap there. Always. Maximum responsibility, mercy. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And
I think that's a really important place to be, especially because of what you just mentioned of like when we everything's progress, right? We are never going to be at a place, and I think this is important. We're never going to be perfect.
No.
You're just never going to be perfect. And so every day is
Success is not a stationary target.
Right.
Right.
You're either progressing, you're regressing here though in our choices. And I think something off of the maximum responsibility, and this is kind of where I think that we need to take kind of the onus on our life is like we have a great deal of free will. Like we all have this, like there can be sin patterns, there can be thought patterns, there can be things in our life that are habitual places that we find ourselves going, but we have the ability to step into the breach, right? So there's this verse that I want to share from just my morning meditation. I have been all about the book of Sirach. So whether you're a Christian or not, like this book, it's actually only in the Catholic Bible, but it's a sweet book. I don't know if you guys have ever delved into it before, but the book of Sirach, it's all about what we're talking about, like a father forming a son. It's the father giving wisdom to his child, Ben Sira. And this is from Sirach chapter 15, and it says this: "Do not say it was God's doing that I fell away, for what he hates he does not do. Do not say he himself has led me astray, for he has no need of the wicked. Abominable wickedness the Lord hates, and he does not let it happen to those who fear him. God in the beginning created human beings and made them subject to their own free choice. If you choose, you can keep the commandments. Loyalty is doing the will of God. What is set before you are fire and water. To whatever you choose, stretch out your hand. Before everyone are life and death. Whichever they choose will be given to them. Immense wisdom of the Lord, mighty in power. He sees all things. The eyes of God behold his works, and he understands every human deed. He never commands anyone to sin, nor shows leniency toward deceivers." And I think when I was praying about this morning, the thing that just kept coming to me was this whole idea of like, these are set before you. It's up to you to choose. Or like we have this ability to be able to make decisions with our life, right? What is it? Like it's over, by the time in a normal day, we make over 39,000 decisions, right? There's something like that.
Yep.
It's like we make an insane amount of decisions, and every single one of those decisions is leading us closer to the person that we could become. And I think that's just my thought there is like we have to take back authority in our life. We can't sit on this abdicated. We have to get back on the throne we've abdicated of a responsibility in our life.
Yeah. I think that there's a hinge in everything you're saying just on, I keep having to clear my throat, but I think there's one more time, there's a hinge here that I'm seeing where we want to be able to understand that the things in front of us we're able to choose between. And the reason we want that is because it's better that way. If I couldn't be free in my choosing, then I wouldn't be able to fix it. And that's a problem. We live in a society today that's saying everything's being imposed on you. And when it says that, then it's like, well, I have no say in that. Like if it's truly imposed on me and I have to respond this way, I have no choice. But that's not true, because like in life, we have predispositions, but not pre-impositions. So I can, like, because of whatever happened to me or like wherever I come from or whatever lens I'm looking through, I can have a predisposition to act in a certain way and choose not to. It's not a pre-imposition that forces me. Like that's the gift. That's like the gift of like right ordered masculinity is when we understand that we can take our lives into our hands and make them a gift and like extend them out to the world. But if I don't understand that, like I am not forced to do anything, like if you're listening and if you're in this room, like if we can just look at the whole of our lives and say every decision I made and I did it. Worst things, best things. Now all of a sudden I can fix it all. But the moment I'm like, worst things, best things, nothing to do with me. I just got fortunate there, and then over here, my circumstances defined that. I have no ability to move from there. Mm-hmm. So like, if you're listening, that's the type of thing that what Sam's saying can do. Like the power of choice, the power of like, hey, in my life, I've been given a will that chooses. And that is an unbelievable gift, because it means that I can have a part in what my destiny is, and not that my destiny is prescripted and has to be a very particular way, which I think is like, man, Sirach's the best, right? Consider the generations long past and see, has anyone ever trusted in the Lord and been disappointed? Like, has anyone took a step out of the boat? Has anyone gone there, failed, whatever it is, and not been able to move forward in what the Lord had for their lives? The answer to that's no. And anyway, I think there's a huge difference between predisposition and pre-imposition. Like, things can happen and I can be disposed to something, even genetically, but it doesn't mean that it's imposed on me. In every step of my life, when I can choose, I can do something.
I love it.
Is that cool?
I love it.
Cool.
I think this one needs a part 2. I feel like we're stumbling upon something, but we haven't. I think there's so much more, and I think because it's such a hard question of really what we're trying to ask is, are we okay? Why are we more okay with failure?
Yeah,
and then how do we as individuals recover from our own failures? Right.
Yep.
And so that is a massive topic, and I think we've grazed the surface.
Yeah,
but I think we can go.
Yeah.
I think we can still make
a part 2, maybe a redeem failure. Part 1 and then part 2 to come. Let's move to PO. So principal objective, if you're listening for the first time, this is the action step. What's going on?
There's some weird noise.
Is that real?
There for a while.
I didn't even hear it.
I think we're good.
I was like so locked in.
And I've got the attention span of a squirrel.
That's
we're like,
hilarious. Yeah, I'm like locked. I'm like, wait, what are you saying? Principal objective. So this is just the part where we make the conversation we're having actionable in our lives, and we hope that you can make it actionable in yours. Principal objective. The first thing we do is kind of check in last time, 2 weeks ago, what we committed to. And then we talk about what we're going to commit to now. 2 weeks ago, I committed to kind of following. I was putting some like quarterly like goals into my regular life. And so far I've been at about 50% of hitting those goals. There's we're entering this new year, and I think I'm getting my feet under me, but I'm really motivated to get that to 100%. So I feel like it's been probably like every other day that I've been able to hit my zone 2 cardio goal. And then also I'm finishing a class for a master's degree that I'm completing this semester. So those are kind of my 2 things. That's where I've been going. We were talking about just the dynamics around what it means to commit and what it means to like go after something, and that's what I committed to and been kind of loose in my follow through on.
Nice.
You guys?
Yeah, mine I think Noah and I had similar ones. Mine was to create a cadence with a mentor in my life, and I did do that, so we're good to go. This PO, are we going here?
Well, let's check in on those real quick. So you were able to do that?
Yeah.
Don't leave me out.
Easy.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
Coming right back to you, Sam.
He's got the Buckeyes on the brain. We're trying to get to this game.
Bucks.
No, mine would be. You played footsies with me over here? What's going on?
Sorry.
Might be. He might be
down here.
Yeah, he's trying to
get new Pumas. All of a sudden, you want to start playing footsies with me. All right. Well, anyways,
back to what I was saying.
PO, I was ask this mentor, and I did. And it was awesome, and we're going to start moving and shaking. I would say, so I'm going to leave that there.
That's it. Yeah, we're going to go back to Sam.
Okay.
Sam, this one. Right in the middle of a yawn.
Buckeyes.
Oh, wait.
Oh, baby.
Okay, so I think this stirred some good stuff in me of like, I saw, the way my brain works is I just get like, just creative images. I feel like I'm, kind of like a regular Steve Jobs or something. But got this image in my brain. That's what he thought, dude.
Soft flex.
He did. Yeah, these geniuses. But I had this kind of like image pop into my mind of like cave spelunking. You know what that is?
I don't.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
It's like deep spelunking. It's just like diving.
Spelunking.
Yeah.
I
but
like
you're
this.
like
It's an onomatopoeia, probably.
Yeah.
Because
check it out.
sounds like Splunk
Yeah,
when
spelunking.
you go in. Yeah.
So going spelunking into a cave. And so I was like, you know what? I think I just need to go into the darker places in my life and inquire, like, why do I think that way? What am I doing? What's the motivation from that place coming from? And try to heal it.
Yeah.
Take a dose of my own medicine here and try to bring some healing into my stuff there.
I can actually build from that. I had a similar idea for a PO this week, I guess for the next 2 weeks. Not spelunking, but along those lines. I think I want to kind of stay, again, I'm trying to simplify my life and go after like things that I can get my hands around. And I think like I've had those few days where I've been just missing the 2 goals that I'm setting. And I think what I want to do is commit to at the end of the day, if I do miss either of those goals in a given day, just sitting down and like asking particularly why that failure happened. And just kind of just owning it. Like, oh, that's why that happened. Okay, tomorrow that won't happen the same way. And I think that'll give me a little bit more momentum in areas where I've historically like found roadblocks or walls. So I want to hit the goals. So if I hit that, that's great. But in any day that I don't, asking myself at the end of the day, okay, there was a failure there. I don't have to beat myself up for it. Why was that? Let's get better tomorrow.
That's great. My a good person who kind of helps me grow in certain areas of my life, he shared with me probably 6 months ago. He said that basically every failure, every bad decision we make is a part of ourselves kind of, for lack of better words, crying out for a need that wasn't attended to. Okay. So, which is why I think we could go on a part 2 heavy with this failure thing. Cause it has so much to dive into, but, I found that to be the case, that when there's a need that isn't being met, then I respond or react in a way that is a way that I shouldn't, right? It's that disposition versus imposition, right? Like there's a reason behind why I'm acting in the way I shouldn't. And so something I've tried to implement into my life, I was trying to do it 3 times a day and I wasn't doing it. And so I've boiled it down to 1 time a day, is really go into that reflection before I go to bed or when I wake up, even in the middle of the day. Why am I, what need was not being met when I made that decision, right? And I think, I'm trying to do that once a day. And I think there's a lot more like that. That's not as detailed, but I'm trying to do that once a day. Why did I respond in that way? What need wasn't being met? And I hope I can come back with some stories to kind of go deeper into that and explain it maybe even in the part 2. Yeah. But yeah, once a day, asking that question, why did I do that thing that I didn't want to do, and what need wasn't being met?
Yeah, that'll be sweet. I love it. Yeah, part 2. Well, let's just go hit the next 2 weeks as hard as we can. Let's fail some,
Go Bucks.
But not the Bucks tonight. Bucks, you cannot fail tonight. Don't fail us.
You will be demonized by me. Because I do idolize you.
And it'll take us a long time to humanize you. You know
that'll be after I die. Yeah.
Gents, this has been Modern Man. Thanks for tuning in. We're looking to rediscover and redeem the heart of man in the modern world. If you are looking to do that with us, send this to a friend. Let's continue to what am I trying to say? Continue to spread this movement and get people locked in. OH?
IO, baby.
IO, go Bucks. Peace. Stay dangerous, gents.